at, right? Yeah. Hi, I'm Carl. First of all, I'd like to apologize if I cough a little bit or sniffle a little bit. I've been sick for the last couple of days, but I hope it's not going to be too much of an interruption. Um, anyways, uh, let's get started. I've chosen an extract from the play The Importance of Being Earnest. I've chosen an interview between Lady Bracknell and Jack, two characters in the play, where Lady Bracknell is interviewing Jack in order to decide if he's worthy of marrying Gwendolyn and decide if she's going to give him her blessing or not. The play by Oscar Wilde, The Importance of Being Earnest, first premiered in 1895. Um, and I'm going to look a little bit on classes and class consciousness and how they're portrayed by Oscar Wilde in the play. I am going to look on a little bit on stylistic devices such as sarcasm and humor and irony and how this has been used in order to set the tone and mood and also to reach a very broad audience. And I'm just gonna swiftly touch upon some feminist viewpoints that are very relevant for this play. Now, in The Importance of Being Earnest, Oscar Wilde examines the issues of class in Victorian London. Many people have called The Importance of Being Earnest simply being Oscar Wilde's satirical interpretation of the upper class as one big act made up on a whole bunch of unwritten rules as something ridiculous. And that's what I would like to look at a little bit today. This using sarcasm to really criticize the upper class by kind of hiding the critique of the upper class within sarcasm. Now, the dialogues in the play, and especially the interview that I've chosen between Lady Bracknell and Jack, are used to represent the characters' own knowledge, their own consciousness of what class they belong to. Afterwards, the characters, when they have this knowledge of their own class, then use their knowledge, just like in society, they use this knowledge in order to judge those that they do not believe to be in the same class as themselves, that they do not believe to be equal to themselves or be worth the same as themselves. Now, we know from really early on in the play that Lady Bracknell has a very clear knowledge of her social class and her standing in society, her social standing. For example, early on in the book, when Algernon makes a fairly dismissive remark about society, Lady Bracknell says, "Never speak disrespectfully of society, Algernon. Only people who cannot fit into it do that." Lady Bracknell would never say does that. She said do that. Where was I? Oh yeah, with this quote, Lady Bracknell very clearly includes herself as being part of this proper society, the upper class, and therefore believes that she has the authority to correct Algernon and make sure that he follows these unwritten rules that are very important to follow if you're part of proper society and the upper class. I'm okay. I'm okay. I'm good. Where was I? Oh yeah, the exact same thing as with this discussion with Algernon. The exact same thing happens in the extract that I've chosen, the interview between Lady Bracknell and Jack. I forgot his name there for a second. For example, it comes to show several times, but for example, there's a very clear example when she asked him if he has a place in town. And he said yes, he has a house in town, and he tells her what part of town it is, which is not good enough for her, so she asks for an address. And when Jack gives her the house number 147, she solely based on that house number concludes that it's on the unfashionable side of town. Now, this tells us a whole lot about Lady Bracknell's knowledge of her own class, just as the quote I said previously with Algernon. Uh, Lady Bracknell is well aware that she's part of the proper class and the proper society and the upper class, and therefore she has the authority, the power to define what is fashionable and what is unfashionable when sitting opposite of someone like Jack that she has redeemed, not worthy or not equal to her. Now, you can say that in this interview, in this case, Lady Bracknell is an authority to Jack, which she is, and that's a point that I also think is really interesting to look at. And this is where the kind of feminist criticism, the feminist viewpoint comes into play, because Lady Bracknell represents this very strong female character, this strong, independent woman with authority to decide whether or not Jack is worthy of Gwendolyn or not. And this way that Oscar Wilde has depicted actually all the women in The Importance of Being Earnest, not just Lady Bracknell, but all the women in The Importance of Being Earnest, very much challenges this idea of how women were viewed in Victorian England, Victorian London, just like classes. Um, and many people could argue that plays like this one, or stories, other plays or stories by writers like Oscar Wilde, very much have shaped how society has viewed the role of women. Also because he was able to reach such a broad audience. And why was he able to reach such a broad audience? Well, many people argue that it's because he had the ability to kind of blur the lines between classes by this might sound a little bit weird, but this is my interpretation of it. He made it so clear what class Lady Bracknell was in, for example, and what class the waiters were in. But he kind of blurred the lines by making everything that Lady Bracknell said very sarcastic. He was kind of hiding the upper class in his play, The Importance of Being Earnest, behind sarcasm, making fun of it, making the upper class, making the higher class look like something kind of ridiculous or ludicrous in the eyes of the readers. And by using this sarcasm and humor, these stylistic devices, he was able to reach a really broad audience and thereby also shape the views of a lot of people in society. And that's what I find really, really interesting about Oscar Wilde. So to sum it up, to kind of conclude here at the very end, Oscar Wilde was able to challenge the way we viewed women. He was able to challenge the way we viewed class. He was able to criticize the upper class by using sarcasm, and he was able to reach a really broad. Did I already say that? I don't remember if I already said that. Doesn't matter. It's a break now. I can see how long this is. I don't know if it's 10 minutes, but that's all I have for you. And, well, it's Friday and it's school break. Thank you very much. Have a nice break, Danny. Bye-bye.